How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States. You know what? We're actually going to open phone lines, and I can take phone calls today, just not immediately. 877-973-7425. That is the number. Glad to have you with me. We've got to begin with reality. Reality dawns in the United States House of Representatives. It is a sad day in that we have some tragic news to start the show. Congressman Doug LaMalfa is dead, 65 years old. He was beloved in the House of Representatives. I did not know him, but he was beloved in the House of Representatives by Democrats and Republicans alike. He was on the Agriculture, Natural Resources, Transportation, and Infrastructure committees. He, fourth generation rice farmer, former state legislator in California. He was in his seventh term representing the rural northeast part of California. I had no word on cause of death. I heard a couple people suggest it was a cardiac condition. I do not know. He's the first congressional district in California. And a lot of people who are very sad today that he has passed away. He represented the area north of San Francisco. His district stretched in and then up to the northeast corner bordering Nevada, Lassen County, Modoc County, Shasta, that area. It's an unexpected loss to the House of Representatives, and that brings the House majority to a two-seat majority for the United States Republicans, the congressional Republicans, because the House of Representatives, of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene has now resigned from the House. So that gives them a two-seat majority with the antagonism of Thomas Massie and the House Republicans. Thomas Massie basically causes the Republicans to have a one-seat majority because he's not going to vote for the president's agenda. The president has alienated Massie, gone to war with Massie in a Republican primary. And now, just as we are coming on air, comes word that Congressman Jim Baird has been in a serious car wreck with his wife and has been hospitalized. They're going to be okay, but it's a pretty bad accident. The House, the president is telling House Republicans at their legislative retreat today. So LaMalfa is dead. Marjorie Taylor Greene is gone. Jim Baird is in the hospital. That gives the Republicans exactly a 0-seat margin in the United States House of Representatives. There will be a special election for Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm sure the governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, will speed it up as quick as he can. There's zero incentive for the Democrats in California to speed up a special election for LaMalfa. Baird will take some time to recover. There's no special election there. So this is going to be a slog for the GOP. Now, there wasn't a lot Republicans were going to get done this year anyway. If we're really honest about it, there wasn't a lot. They wanted to do a potential reconciliation package. They're not going to be able to do much of a reconciliation package because, well, they don't have the votes now. I mean, here's the thing. Thomas Massey marches to the beat of his own drummer, always has marched to the beat of his own drummer. But for a while, there have been a number of Republicans, including Mike Johnson, who have been able to get Thomas Massey at the end of the day to play ball with them. Thomas Massey's making it very clear in a series of floor speeches of late, including just yesterday on the Venezuela situation. He's not playing ball anymore with the GOP. So you don't have the votes now to have reconciliation. The Republicans would like a health care compromise with the Democrats because the subsidies have gone away on health insurance, and health insurance premiums are skyrocketing for a lot of Americans. That's probably dead on arrival as well. So there's nothing they can do. The president is talking to the Republicans, to the U.S. House of Representatives. I would play you clips, but the president is using bits of profanity, so I'll just read you. The president said, you guys got to get elected, because if you don't get elected, we have a country that's going to hell, so we can't play games. We don't need this BS. We need to talk about favored nations, and your numbers are coming down at levels that nobody's ever seen. We inherited high prices. We inherited a mess. We inherited the greatest inflation of history. And you know what's knocking it down? The bad economy we inherited. We now have the hottest economy in the history of our country. Mary Margaret Olohan from the Daily Wire bringing in these clips. If we don't win the midterms, Democrats will find a reason to impeach me. And he also said that you got to be flexible on Hyde. That is the Hyde Amendment, which prohibits taxpayer funding of abortion. Now, that's always been the bare minimum for Republicans, and there's a big red flag for the GOP here. This president has inarguably been the most pro-life president because he has put enough members of the Supreme Court to get rid of Roe v. Wade. But for him to come out and now tell Republicans today, you have to be flexible on the Hyde Amendment. The Hyde Amendment has always been the bare minimum for Republicans to be pro-life. All the Hyde Amendment says is that you can't use federal taxpayer dollars to pay for abortion. If the president is asking Republicans to compromise on Hyde, he's essentially asking Republicans to give up the entirety of their pro-life position, because the Hyde Amendment is the bare minimum. I mean, you have Republicans who are pro-abortion who say, I support abortion rights, but I don't think the government should pay for it. And the president is now essentially asking Republicans, in order to cut a health care deal with the Democrats to preserve Obamacare, they've got to scrap their support for the Hyde Amendment, because Democrats say they want the government to pay for abortions in this health care plan. This kind of cuts the legs out from under the Republican pro-life movement if the president is telling them to compromise on Hyde, to be flexible on Hyde. There's no flexibility on the Hyde Amendment. You either support the government funding abortion or you don't. For the Republican to come out and Republican president to come out and say you got to be willing to be flexible here, there's no flexibility. It's either does the government pay for abortions or not? And if the Republicans come out and say, you know what, we're going to let the government pay for abortions, well, why should pro-lifers have the president's back on this? I'm flummoxed by the president's statement on this, and I don't think Mike Johnson, who came to power and rose in Louisiana legislature as a major pro-life activist, is going to want to get rid of the Hyde Amendment. In fact, here's the problem for the GOP now. You literally have a 0-vote margin in the House of Representatives with LaMalfa dead, Marjorie Taylor Greene gone, Jim Baird in the hospital. With Greene gone, the IQ of the House has gone up. With LaMalfa gone and Baird out of commission in the hospital, you don't have the votes to get anything done. So the Democrats' plan for health care is dead on arrival in the Senate. John Thune's already said there are not the votes of the Republicans to overcome the filibuster on what the Democrats want. You got the president saying be flexible on the Hyde Amendment. That's going to alienate pro-lifers. That's going to alienate the House Freedom Caucus. So how do you extend health care subsidies? Yeah, I think the president sabotaged it himself on the Hyde Amendment issue. And there aren't the votes there. You've alienated Thomas Massie. So then that gets me to reconciliation. The president wanted one more stab at reconciliation to spark a little more power into the economy. I'm not sure how you can get that done. Essentially, we're headed into campaign season now with the House of Representatives that has done less than any House of Representatives. And by the way, don't hear this as a criticism for me. I'm totally fine with the United States House of Representatives doing nothing. I am 100% okay with the House of Representatives doing absolutely nothing. We are safe. We are safe when Congress is dysfunctional. I'm just not sure how we proceed with them doing anything. I mean, they're going to have to do the budget. By the way, Chuck Schumer is saying that there's going to be no government shutdown, that the Republicans are playing nice with them on health care, so there's not going to be a government shutdown, which is good. And I just don't see how, other than passing the bare minimum to keep the government open, we're going to get anything out of the House of Representatives at this point. Interesting. Sad news with Doug LaMalfa passing. Those of you out in California know Sacramento and in North, you guys, Susanville and the like, y'all, he represents part of our listening audience and was loved in that district. I never met the guy. Don't know him, never met him, but, I was on Mark Halperin's show this morning at 9 a.m., and Halperin mentioned that he had heard a member of the House Republican Conference was dead, didn't know who, tried to source it. Credit to Mark Halperin, he's the first person to break the news. Jake Sherman over at Punchbowl News followed on the heels of Mark Halperin making the announcement. But it puts the Republicans in a real bind. They had a very narrow majority. I mean, the odds of Hakeem Jeffries becoming Speaker do go up, although the Republicans would essentially just keep business from the floor of the House so that Johnson couldn't be booted. Thomas Massie's the wild card, though. The president's trying to oust him. Massie probably can get reelected. The GOP has not put up a good show of force to try to oust Massie. Massie's made tons of money. He's got Rand Paul helping him. He's very popular in his district. The president kind of picked the wrong fight there. Maybe they can oust him. I don't know. There are a number of people, though, who are trying to stand up to oust Massie. That's going to help Massie in Kentucky because a divided field against a united Massie front helps Massie. I'm just unsure how Magic Mike Johnson's going to be able to pull magic off to get anything done. I mean, and Johnson's been able to pull several rabbits out of hats. So maybe he'll be able to do it. It's just going to be very difficult for the House of Representatives to function at all with Barrett in the hospital for I don't know how long. Prayers for him and his family and his recovery. He and his wife were in the car wreck. That's Congressman from Indiana. Prayers for the LaMalfa family as they now deal with Congressman LaMalfa, longtime farmer and member of Congress, 7 terms in Congress. He's dead. The House Republicans went into their retreat today at the Kennedy Center with the president. They're not calling it a retreat because they don't want to sound like they're retreating. They're calling it their meeting, their annual gathering. But they're in their annual gathering with the president telling them to retreat on the Hyde Amendment, which is going to be a non-starter for the pro-lifers. And now they have a 0-seat majority in the House of Representatives. I kind of feel bad for Mike Johnson. He's the dog that caught the car, and it's been running over him ever since. He's done his best with the position, but good gracious.
Y'all, I'm not a New Year's resolution guy. I never have been, but I have resolved, I guess you could say, before the New Year's to just drink more water. It's good for you. And I buy bottled water for the office, but I finally broke down and I bought a Cove Pure. So if you don't know what it is, it's an incredible machine. It's got technology that's certified to remove 99.9% of contaminants for the water. It gets rid of PFAs, microplastics, pharmaceutical residue, fluoride. It gets everything removed. It's the purest water you can get, and you just pour tap water in the back and let the filters do the work, and it just works. When I used it for the first time, I didn't realize you could heat up the water. You can chill the water. You can just have regular tap water at room temperature, and it just works with the push of a button. It sits right on the countertop. Didn't have to call a plumber. It makes it really easy. Cove Pure is so easy to get pure water with the push of a button. Do your New Year's resolution. Improve your health with the real clean water. Right now, you can get $200 off for a limited time at covepure.com/Eric. That's COVEPURE. Covepure.com/Eric. ERICK.
Hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program. So Mark Halperin was at ABC News for a number of years. Expert political commentator. He's the guy who conjured the note. Back when I was just getting interested in politics as a lawyer, I was more interested in politics than law. ABC News, and I want to say it was probably 2004, trotted out the note. And the note was the daily compendium of what Halperin called the ongoing Gang of 500, which was the 500 reporters in the D.C. New York corridor who cover politics and covering politics and the political implications stuff. And it was a brilliant, brilliant newsletter. And it's now been surpassed. Halperin left. Rick Klein took it over. And then Politico started Playbook. And there are a bunch of copies. Halperin is he's a political genius, one of the best source guys in D.C., and he asked me to guest host with him and Democratic strategist this morning, his morning meetup conversation with it's a Zoom call with a lot of people, and he broke the LaMalfa story, and I was 20 minutes from being on. I did my hit with WDBO down in Orlando, Florida, and then promptly managed to pour coffee down my shirt. About 15 minutes before I was supposed to be on a video call. So if you see the video live stream or close to me today, I've got my hoodie on. I got my shirt on underneath, but there's also a giant coffee stain down the front of my shirt. Of course, that was going to happen right before I got on. So in any event, I appreciated it. One of the points I made I want to get into here, but I'm shifting stuff up on the fly as we've got a number of news developments happening. But I think that people are going to be disappointed in what happens in Venezuela. And I'll get to this a little bit. Why? Because if the president can get what he wants out of the current regime, he's going to. Because the Machado waiting in the wing successors, they don't have support among the military in Venezuela. And the military in Venezuela controls so much of the economy. You're going to have to go in there and have a military incursion into Venezuela and fight these people, which the president doesn't want to do. And it looks like the new Venezuelan president is going to transactionally give Donald Trump much of what he wants. So you got a lot of people who've been celebrating in the streets of Miami and in New York and in Los Angeles who want to go back to Venezuela who they may not be able to. This is going to get interesting. We'll talk about it here in a little bit, but Tim Walz first when we get back. First, I got to tell you guys again, I'm so excited to have Renai as an advertiser because they're a great company. If you go to talkingtankless.com, they set up that website. You can find out about getting rid of your tank, your water heater that consumes a lot of power and natural gas. We have one of the Renai Forever hot water heaters in our house. I have two teenagers, one of whom has very long hair, and we don't get in fights in our house over using up the hot water because we never use up the hot water with the Renai tankless water heater. It's incredible. Paul Harvey, back in the day, used to talk about the Forever hot water, and I remember the ads, and I was like, one day I'm going to be a grown-up, and I'm going to be able to take as long of a shower as I want. And now I am the man I wanted to be thanks to Renai. I have a Forever hot water heater. I can stand in my shower all night long if I want to and never run out of hot water. My kids can take a shower concurrently and have hot water. It's brilliant. TalkingTankless.com is the website. TalkingTankless.com. Find out how to replace your tank of a water heater with the tankless water heater from Renai. You will never run out of hot water again. I want to confess something. I actually am pretty terrible about daily Bible reading, and I need to get better. And one of the great things I have encountered is Glorify, and I'm glad to tell you about them. This episode's brought to you by Glorify. It's the #1 Christian daily devotional app, and it's helped me focus better on reading the Bible and diving into daily devotions and meditating on God's Word. And they've got great sleep meditations as well to help you wind down at night. I've enjoyed using the app, and I wanted to put it on your radar. I thought you might as well. You get full access to Glorify for just $29.99 for the entire year. That's Glorify's lowest price ever. You download the Glorify app now at glorify-app.com/Eric, E-R-I-C-K. Feel closer to God this year with Glorify. It'll help you get focused on Scripture. Get full access all year for just $29.99 at glorify-app.com/Eric. You know, Joe Cunningham down at KPEL in Lafayette were texting each other, and he just said, I couldn't get ChatGPT to do it, so I managed to get Grok to do it. Gandalf with the Balrog on the bridge in Moria of Mike Johnson telling Hakeem Jeffries, "You shall not pass." Don't want Jeffries becoming speaker. Wow. All right. Look. I want to talk about this particular issue. We got to talk a little more about Tim Walz. I just find this to be very funny that the National Press Corps has been more interested in who Nick Shirley is, the YouTuber who exposed the fraud. I mean, he went to these daycare clinics or daycare facilities in Minneapolis, and there were no children at the daycare centers. By the way, I just as a side note, this is literally, this is popping into my, y'all, I do this show off the top of my head. I was standing at Publix last night at the deli and had somebody come up to me and ask me about my script that I use. And I'm like, there is no script. This is live off the top of my head. You can hear me lose my train of thought every day of the week. There's no script, no teleprompter, no nothing. And this just popped into my head. So Nick Shirley, YouTuber extraordinaire who took out Tim Walz, shows up at Somali daycare centers, the Learning Center, Learing. They misspelled on the sign, Learning Center. Yeah, y'all, you can't make this stuff up. The Somali Learning Center, the Child Learning Center run by the Somalis in Minneapolis, misspelled the word learning. My people, Nick Shirley shows up. There are no children at any of these places. Shows up at 9 places. No children. Do you know what it never dawned on the Democrats to say? You can tell this is a growing problem for the Democrats is that they're childless. The Democrats are childless. And do you know what the Democrats couldn't say, what the Democrats did not say, what the Democrats, what their excuse was? It's Christmas. Think about that. None of the Democrats who are in charge of the PR operation have any kids to know that the kids are home for Christmas. The schools are closed. The parents are home with the kids. The child care centers were shut down for Christmas. Not a single Democrat thought to say, of course there are no children at the child care centers because it's Christmas. No. Instead, they said the children were inside. You just didn't see them. They didn't let Nick Shirley in to see the kids. There were no kids. They stood outside watching. No kids came in. No kids went out. No, there were no children present. And not a single one of the progressive white Democrats who went on defense and then on offense about the situation, it ever dawned on them to say, well, it's Christmas vacation. Of course, there are no kids there. The schools are closed, so the parents are having to be home with the kids and work from home right now. As so many of you who have kids in daycare know from the last week, daycare was shut down. Many of you worked from home because your kids were home with you, and not a single Democrat thought to use that as an excuse. And that just shows you how detached from the real world many Democrats are, because they don't have kids to use that as an excuse. Instead, they said, the kids are inside. You just can't see them. So they stood outside, and what did they see? No kids. I mean, at some point, the kids had to leave. They did need to go home, but they never left because they were never there in the first place. And what was the reaction from the great white press of Washington, D.C.? Well, the Republicans are just a bunch of racists. They're targeting the Somali community. I saw some idiot on social media say, this is clear bigotry and racism because they're talking about the Somali fraud. When do we ever use ethnic national identifiers? And somebody replied, hello, the Italian mob, the United States Navy, British cuisine, Indian immigrants, the Chinese. Yeah, I mean, good Lord. They're really grasping at a bunch of straws, these dolts, over trying to make this happen. Y'all, it's a big issue. And it's not just Somalis. In fact, there are people who accurately noted that some of the biggest players in this were good white progressives in Minnesota who were teaching the Somalis how to commit the fraud. It really is notable. The good white progressives of the white North were the ones trying to tell the Somalis how to commit the fraud. It took a bunch of white progressives to tell Somalis how to game the system. And then they gamed the system. And Tim Walz now is not going to run for re-election. We have always been told, in fact, it was a big thing in 2024, Tim Walz never lost an election in Minnesota. Minnesota, there were suggestions Minnesota might become a swing state, and you put Tim Walz in, and Minnesota's not going to be a swing state because Tim Walz has never lost an election in Minnesota. Tim Walz is literally stepping aside. He's not going to resign. He's just not going to run for re-election. There is no constituency in the Minnesota Democratic Party to force him out early. But he's not going to run for re-election because he would have lost a primary, not just a general election. He would have lost a primary to another Democrat. Remarkable stuff. And why is he not going to run for re-election? Because of a fraud scandal that the Democrats tell us is just a Republican right-wing media operation. In fact, I saw a New York Times Wall Street Journal reporter go on Morning Joe and say that it was right-wing media that ousted Tim Walz. That's not really true. Yeah, it is the right-wing media that covered the story, but it's the fraud scandal that's ousting Tim Walz. The fraud started during his first term. And Tim Walz lacked any curiosity about the fraud. He refused to look into the fraud. He didn't want to disrupt key constituencies. He was completely incurious and blind to it, willfully blind to the fraud that happened under his watch. It's his Department of Child Care Services, or whatever they call it in Minnesota, that is responsible for it. And Tim Walz never went to the legislature and asked for more money to hire more prosecutors. And now the state prosecutors and even the federal prosecutors in Minnesota are saying a lot of people are not going to go to jail who should go to jail because we lack the resources and manpower to prosecute it all. A lot of people are going to get away with it because of Tim Walz. There is no allegation. And I want to be real upfront and honest with you because I know how people on the internet sow conspiracy theories and the like. There is no allegation from anyone, anywhere at this time that Tim Walz made money off this. Just follow me here, because I know some of you hate him so much. You hate the other side so much. You hate them as much as they hate you. You're just convinced that he had to be making millions off this. There is no allegation from anyone, left, right, or center, Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian, Green Party. Nobody is pointing a finger at Tim Walz saying he profited off this, which begs the question of why then decide not to run again. And the answer is actually very simple. If you take the conspiracy theories out, if you don't impute motives not in play to Tim Walz, the answer is very simple. Because he is the 8-year-long governor of the state of Minnesota, set up the program, and when allegations of fraud began to surface in 2018 and 19 while he was governor, he refused to do anything about it. Now, you have to ask yourself, why would Tim Walz refuse to investigate? Why would he suddenly become incurious as to massive welfare fraud in Minnesota? And some of you will conclude, well, he must have been profiting, but that's not the answer. The answer is that Tim Walz refused to do anything about it because had he taken leadership and done anything about it, it would have exposed a massive operation in the immigrant community and among white progressives in Minnesota who were stealing, and Walz is tied to all of them politically. He owes his political career to the people who are going to jail, and Walz didn't profit from the actions financially, but he profited politically from the actions by refusing to take action. These people kept using the money to do, among other things, make political donations to the Democratic Party of Minnesota, which propped up Tim Walz's career. Tim Walz almost became vice president of the United States by turning a blind eye to all of this. So there's no direct profit, but there's a lot of indirect profit. Campaign contributions and political power. Now, the side story to this is that the local press began reporting on this stuff in 2018 and 2019. In 2019, the local Fox affiliate in Minneapolis ran a story about the Somalis engaged in welfare fraud using the money to fund terrorism in Somalia. It was dismissed by the Walz administration at the time, and it was dismissed even by the Department of Housing and Urban Development and the Department of Health and Human Services in Washington, D.C. as unsubstantiated. By the way, Trump was president at the time. It was the career bureaucrats in D.C., not the Trump administration. It was the career bureaucrats who washed their hands of it. And it was the Minnesota Department of Child Services that said this isn't true, and the media went along with it. But we now know it all was true, and the Fox affiliate was absolutely right, and they had the receipts at the time. Walz should have been curious about it, and he turned a blind eye to it. And despite all of that, despite all of the research, despite all of the real behind the scenes, the indictments were happening in the Biden administration. The beginning of the prosecutions were during the Biden administration, not the Trump administration. It was the Biden administration that began looking into this, finding billions of dollars. Not 18, not 22, like some people are saying. That's the total budget. But it was over $1 billion, it looks like, in major fraud. Over multiple years, not 1 year, but multiple years. Hundreds of millions of dollars a year. And despite all of that, that's the guy Kamala Harris picked to be her vice presidential nominee. That's the guy. She went with her gut. She made a big deal about it, said she went with her gut. She didn't want the Jew. Kamala Harris could probably be president of the United States right now had she made Josh Shapiro her vice presidential pick, because Shapiro has a machine in Pennsylvania he would have put to work. Had he been the vice presidential nominee, he would have put his machine to work. It is well known and documented, despite all of the protestations to the contrary, that Shapiro did not in 2024 engage his machine in Pennsylvania to help Kamala Harris. Why? Because he wasn't the nominee. And if Kamala Harris lost in 2028, Shapiro could run for president. And so Kamala Harris lost Pennsylvania. Josh Shapiro, the Democrats, by the way, they're not going to give him the nomination. One, he's Jewish, and two, there are lingering behind-the-scenes bad feelings that Shapiro did not do all he claimed he was going to do to help Kamala Harris win Pennsylvania, and Donald Trump wound up winning it. Won all the swing states. Shapiro didn't lift finger. Shapiro did the dog and pony show, making it look like he was lifting his finger, but he didn't. He wasn't the nominee. He wasn't the vice presidential pick. There was no reason to help Harris. If Trump won, Shapiro could challenge him in 28. And he'll try and probably lose the primary because he's Jewish. And that's a hard truth the Democrats don't want to admit. But the anti-Semitism within the Democratic Party echelons is so strong and entrenched now, a Jew is not going to be their nominee. We got problems on our side with anti-Semitism, the Tucker Carlsons, the Candace Owenses of the world. But they're on the outside as podcasters. The Democratic Party establishment is interwoven with anti-Semitism within elected office holders and within the delegates and voters of the Democratic Party to such an extent the Jewish governor of Pennsylvania is not going to be the Democratic nominee in 28, more likely than not, simply because he's Jewish. But also because he didn't do what he said he would do to help Kamala Harris win Pennsylvania, because he knew if she lost, he'd have a shot at it. There will be hell to pay for Josh Shapiro. Part of it for his religion and faith, part of it because Kamala Harris lost Pennsylvania, but Kamala Harris is the one who picked Tim Walz. It's a damning indictment on her judgment and her political instincts that she chose the weirdo who tried to call other people weirdo to distract from the fact that he's a weirdo. And he's not just a weirdo, he's a weirdo who on his watch oversaw massive hundreds of millions of dollars worth of fraud, upwards of $1 billion worth of fraud that he decided to pretend was not happening because it was his way to preserve power. And now that it's been exposed and the people of Minnesota are mad, he can't run for re-election. And to bring this all home, a Somali fraud scandal in Minnesota has taken out Tim Walz's ability to run for re-election. And the line in the press is that there's no scandal here. It's just right-wing nonsense. It's such nonsense. Tim Walz's political days are over. This hour of the program is brought to you by Van Allen Golf. VanAllenGolf.com. That's ALLEN. VanAllenGolf.com. Art and science combined together in beautiful, functional golf equipment. I have one of their putters, and I adore it. I started playing with it in Las Vegas. First time I played with it was at the Wynn course in Vegas. And, you know, I'm actually better as a one-handed putter, believe it or not, because I don't focus as much, and I'm much better. But I had it actually out on the putting green at my golf course on Sunday. And my gosh, I love this thing. You can find out more at vanallenGolf.com or just text the word golf to 33777. Glad to have them with me. Y'all, I got to tell you, I have made the Trump administration rather mad today because I said something this morning and then I wrote about it in the show notes. It's at the very top of the show notes. I've made some of the president's supporters mad this morning. And I know I've made some people at the White House mad because I've already heard from them, because I referred to some of their current behavior as, well, head diplomacy. I'll just use the big Latin there. If you know, you know. Y'all, I'm sorry. Having Stephen Miller go on TV and say, Greenland is ours, Earthlings. It's just, I mean, come on. We're going to Marvin the Martian this stuff with Greenland is ours. You should get away from Greenland, Denmark. Give it to us, Earthlings. No. You could have everything you wanted out of Greenland other than the island itself if you just played nice with the Danes, who are actually really good allies of ours. But trotting Stephen Miller out to go Marvin the Martian on Denmark, it's just head diplomacy, and it's going to undermine our strategic goals of what we actually need Greenland for. Now, I got to tell you, Vision Computers is the computer company that it doesn't matter. Those of you listening up in Anchorage, Alaska, where, yes, I'm on the radio, you can use Vision Computers. Those of you down in Miami, you can use Vision Computers. Those of you up in Maine, You can use Vision Computers, 404-COMPUTE or visioncomputers.com. They can build you computers, upgrade your computers. They can be your managed IT for your company. So you don't have to have the six-figure salaried in-house IT guy. You have Vision Computers, and every employee gets a phone number where when they call them within 15 seconds, they're going to get somebody on the phone, not an AI chatbot, but an actual human being to help them diagnose any questions about their computer. Let's say you just can't find a file. They can remote in and find it for you. They can do email support. They can do printer support. They can build the computers. And by the way, if they build the computer, the IT support comes for free. Visioncomputers.com or 404-COMPUTE. You're not going to go wrong with them. They can keep your employees experts at their job, and Vision Computers can be the experts at the computers. 404-COMPUTE or visioncomputers.com. Give them a call today. Anyone nationwide, any business nationwide.